Although The Reconciler, a 2015 Christian horror film, is almost an exact copy of 2004's Saw, which by the way was an indie breakout that spawned a franchise and defined a subgenre, I can honestly say that this non-violent, low-budget, and badly acted faith-based copycat is still able to add something new to the story. These Christian filmmakers found a way to embrace a movie that many found hard to watch because it was known for its excess bloodiness and gore, and they transformed that movie into one that is equally hard to watch but in a different way, completely unknown thanks to its excess blandness and bore. In fact, I feel like audiences from every walk of life will find something to unsettle them in The Reconciler. Because if you're not waking up every morning in fear of an all-powerful God struggling with the shame of original sin, then you're at least waking up in fear of an all-powerful government struggling with the shame of organized religion. And that, my friends, is the real dirty bathtub that you're tortured inside of until you saw your leg off to escape. That's right, the day has finally come that we get to examine some biblical body horror, plus a story with terrifyingly tedious timelines to follow, and a tragic trail of victims left behind by our main antagonist. All of these people are so unsuspecting of the Reconciler's plot that they basically never even get too scared of him. Seriously, these people act like getting full body abducted is just mildly uncomfortable or inconvenient, like when you're put into smaller breakout groups for a training seminar at work. In fact, I would say every actor in this cast is someone I could easily see taking an office job at some point in the future, especially since The Reconciler didn't exactly balloon into a decades-long franchise like the source material. But hey, maybe this video is the start of its viral resurgence, in which case I must be a martyr for blessing this Christian Saw reboot with a comeback, just like everybody's favorite resurrected king, John Connor from Terminator 2. So come with me if you want to live in the eternal peace and light of his grace for another yet to be sanctified installment of Clip Breakdown. Hello television viewers, my name is Nick. Thank you so much for joining me once again on my channel for another installment of Clip Breakdown. This is the playlist where we dive into our favorite movies, TV movies, and other such content here on the web, and we tear it apart like a human body that we've murdered. Oof, we went there. I promise that will be the scariest thing that comes onto the screen throughout this video, as we tear this movie limb from limb and look at each individual clip to decide if it's getting its holy message across or if we're just distracted by its cheap attempt at capitalizing on a more popular movie. And honestly, this one makes me mad from the first frame, so before we get into it, just make sure you give this video a big thumbs up and click that subscribe button so you get new videos from me every week. Merch, Patreon, all of it, all of it. As I said, the main credits come up over a single shot of somebody using sealing wax to close an envelope, and I already have notes. Why is there not enough light on that envelope? And also, we're too far away. Showing a wax seal getting pressed down is one of the most satisfying visual things I've ever seen on screen, and I love movies that show it, but you gotta give me a macro shot. Just drench me in that hot red wax like I'm Baby Bell cheese. Anyway, you would think from that setup, the letters become a more interesting part of the movie, but that's the closest we ever get to them. To me, if you're gonna have storyline that revolves around important letters from a creepy person, there are 1,000,000 things you could do to make those letters look creepy and interesting. Like maybe they're written on paper that's been waterlogged and then dried out so that it has like a specific look. Or maybe the Reconciler uses like old pages from the Bible and scribbles on top of the Jesus text to give his threatening words. I mean, I don't think that Christian people love tearing pages out of the Bible, even as movie props, but the Reconciler doesn't give a f, mama. She's out here hunting. Don't worry, I'll explain how all of that comes to be as we move through this. All you need to know, and you actually don't need to know it if you've already seen the first Saw movie, but just in case, all you need to know is that our main characters wake up in a room and they don't know who each other are or how they got there. Let's meet them.
I don't think they mean to kill us, at least not right away.
That's encouraging.
So you got a name?
Smitty.
Smitty.
Yeah. Nickname.
Well, if they gave you that nickname in college, it was clearly part of a fraternity hazing ritual. You don't have to keep introducing yourself into adulthood with something that sounds like you're the first mate on a pirate ship in a movie. You see, hazing is only supposed to be permanent if it kills you, which apparently this other guy knows you're in no danger of. This is gonna be a completely non-lethal abduction slash false imprisonment. I guess because Ed here looked in the other room and saw a toilet, and he took that to mean you're in a safe place. This follows beat for beat a very similar feel to the first Saw movie, except there is no dead body in the middle of the room, which frankly is the only intriguing part of that opening scene, right? Like, two people wake up in a room and you don't know how they got there. That's a play by Samuel Beckett. You add a dead body in the middle holding a gun, and suddenly you're trying to figure out how we got here. Unlike the Saw movie, these two people also aren't chained to the wall, so what they are able to do is try to escape by looking out of a vent. Smitty, as he calls himself, is really jumping around. I don't think the reconciler meant to kidnap him on a day where he clearly ate his Wheaties, because this boy is lifting up wood like a lumberjack.
Careful, son. I don't want to have to deal with a broken leg on top of all this.
I'd be like, okay, Ed, but just a warning, if you set the precedent of calling me son, that opens the door for me to call you daddy. So if that's not the vibe you're going for as we starve to death in each other's arms, then call me Smitty, like an adult, or a family cat from the 1950s. If you pay attention to dialogue, you can usually tell when a movie wanted the actor on screen to appear older than he ended up actually appearing. Like, to me, Ed looks about 38 years old, so I'm not sure why he keeps calling Smitty young feller and reminiscing about the general store days with its big barrel of dill pickles. Frankly, right now, all Smitty and I care about is whether or not you brought one of those dill pickles here with you, or whether your dick still works properly enough for us to continue this lovely film about two men in a supply closet. But Ed didn't bring a rigid dill with him, and Smitty is trying to climb up to the world's smallest vent as an escape route.
Whoa, Smitty! Are you okay?
I think I just bruised it.
Be careful. Take it slow.
That's enough, Ed. Who died for our sins and made you the king of how I lift things up? If Smitty here wants to grunt like a weightlifter, break his back, and shit his pants while lifting a 30-pound plywood pallet, then you better just start accepting that decision and moistening some towels for the eventual cleanup. I think it's Ed's hair that's making him read so much younger than he's speaking. Maybe they thought that his limp and having a cane would age him appropriately, but to me, I'm just seeing that same weird buzz cut that I would give to everybody at my rehab in exchange for cigarettes. Business was great, but I decided to quit before it started to feel like work. Also, before they traced an outbreak of hepatitis C back to the unsanitary clippers that I was using on everyone. But that's not a provable fact. Smitty, being a good climber of pallets, is able to get up to that little hole in the wall vent and scream for help. Nobody comes within half a second, so they have to move on to their next plan. Are you just loving the funny chemistry between these two? I really feel like me and my youth pastor are hanging out at his house without supervision.
Do you see anything else up there? Any other way out?
No.
Well, then come down. Just not the fast way.
Right.
Well, it's good to see that they're still joking and goofing around and being silly throughout the early stages of this terrifying experience. But based on that, I'm starting to get the feeling nobody in this movie is about to have their legs chopped off. The filmmaker said, it's time we got in on the torture porn horror film craze. But we're Christians, so naturally the torture part more comes from listening to the bad dialogue, and the porn is what they were shooting in this location last night. One aspect of this movie that I found continually frustrating is how the screenplay never lets on how long the main characters are trapped underground. Is it hours, days, weeks? How long am I supposed to believe that they're trapped in a toilet room eating cans of beans? And ultimately, that reminds me that I don't even need to be locked away in a cellar to know that there are probably gaps in my nutrition. I don't even eat cans of beans. It's like a lot of Airheads and gummies. I go through periods where I'm very committed to eating whole foods, but it just slowly slips away one little thing at a time. So I'm always looking for ways to sort of foolproof and build these healthy habits into my life, which is frankly how I became a true blue, authentic fan of Care of, who I'm very proud to say are once again the sponsors of today's video. Care of is a subscription service that helps you get your hands on customized plans of supplements, vitamins, and powders by shipping them right to your door. Normally, I run out before I can restock them, and it just takes a few days before I've completely lost the habit. Care of sends me these daily personalized packs. They make these out of a plant-based film that allows them to be easily composted. Plus, this dispenser is countertop presentable. And speaking as somebody who has spent hours wandering through health food stores, Care of makes the whole process foolproof. With their quiz, I answer a few questions about my lifestyle, and then it recommended the right products. For example, I said this before, I've never even heard of astaxanthin before. This is a new type of nutrient that Care of has taught me about because I said that I live in a city, and this will help support healthy skin that is able to protect itself from outside aggressors. Care of also recommended vitamin B12, vitamin C, plus a multivitamin for good measure because, like I said, a lot of gummy bears. Their products are made from clean, good-for-you ingredients, backed by the latest science. One of my goals for this year is to just really maximize my consistency with whatever healthy habits I currently have time for. I'm also really switching up the cardio that I do every day. I'm throwing in hip-hop cardio. I notice a difference in how I look and how I feel since taking Care of. The biggest thing is just generally brighter skin. I see less redness, and I find myself less concerned about breakouts that pop up. Also, Care of recommended unflavored collagen, which helps support a lot of different bodily functions to keep the skin smooth, plump, and bouncy. I tend to love when the products I buy are personalized for me. I'm reminded of that every time I read my name on the pack, and Care of still allows me to explore. I can take that quiz again whenever my lifestyle changes. And in fact, I recently caught some news about gut musts. It's their latest line of formulas that help manage things such as bloating, gas, indigestion. If you're also feeling health focused this winter or simply want to make life easier for yourself, take Care of's quiz and see which vitamins and supplements they recommend for you. Click on the link below and use my code NICKD50 to save 50% off your first order with Care of. And now that my bones are soft and my eyes are strong, we can go back into the depths of the reconciler's lair. Don't worry though, we're not just stuck in a bottle episode type thing with Ed and Smitty. We also zoom back over to another part of this unnamed town. That's another thing that bothers me about a movie. You can't just have it be the city. Like, is it New York? Is it Toronto? Like, give me some real world or fictional place to set everything so that I know that we're not just in a Twilight Zone type of area where it's like the multiverse. It could be any town. Anyway, we go over to the Anytown newspaper where we meet our main protagonist, not kidnapped, a journalist named Sienna who's hard at work, but it's not her passion.
Beautiful, elegant, and
Wow, have you ever made a PowerPoint slide so ugly that afterwards you sort of just shrug and will yourself into a coma? Because that's the kind of Tuesday our main character is having here at the Gazette. No, we don't ever learn what the name of the newspaper is. I don't even think we hear that this is Sienna. As you can probably tell, she's an underutilized journalist. So much raw talent, as you just saw when she upgraded an adjective, and it was so good, she had to pat herself on the back a little bit.
beautiful, elegant,
How is it better, mumbles McCubicle? I feel like most people getting married would rather be called beautiful. Elegant sort of feels like the code word you would use to describe the mother of the bride, if she kind of looks like a bull terrier, but you know, at least she got her nails done. But I guess if the head reporter for the weddings section of your newspaper is also your lead Photoshop designer, from time to time, things like this are gonna fall through the cracks. For example, that entire terrible paragraph she just wrote, or the color color that she thinks newspapers are printed in. I don't think many print publications are still creating layouts using the Working Girl Barbie CD-ROM. To be fair, maybe Sienna is a little behind and uninvested because her true passion in life is not creating these obituaries, but for weddings, I guess you would call them. Like, is that a famous couple, or is she just creating listings for random people's weddings that have happened? Like it's the wake for some kid you went to high school with. Rest in peace. What Sienna really wants is for the world to finally hear her unique journalistic voice. And she's starting with her own office by speaking every word that she types out loud. The newlyweds' reception was themed after, quote, Nordic winters, unquote. And their beautiful honeymoon, elegant honeymoon, that's better, was a murder-suicide. XOXO, mumbles McCubicle, hyphen, harsh eye makeup. Great reporting there, Ace. Now time to go back into hypersleep. There she goes. Clearly, this reporter doesn't feel like she's working on the top news stories at the office, which leads me to wonder who is, because this office is empty, except for, like, a janitor. Also, there's a lot of ugliness on screen, like this plastic over-the-door hook and some locket on it. We've got training posters all around. Set designer, clean up your sets. Look at what I have on this table. 3 drinks, a computer, and a charming personality resting on its elbows. That's it. I'm not trying to make things look busy because that's coming out of my mouth. The busy, hectic part is the things I shout at you. Anyway, let's talk to the boss, who is basically the inciting factor for all of this, and then he goes away for good.
I look out here and I see progress, okay? I see battery powered cars. I see solar panels and I see equal rights for a lot of people.
Boss, are you crying because there's a Nissan Leaf parked out there and last month your cousin married a black guy? Because I'm just letting you know, that's gonna be a very strange article for me to write on my words about weddings page. Again, I don't know why the newspaper editor is getting such meaningful dialogue. It's basically his only scene. Besides, there's something very threatening about the pointy end of that pen sticking out 6 inches from his face. That is a strong ear. He said, I see battery-powered cars, boats being pushed by the wind, and sandwiches that are served hot. That's the breaking news people want. And I guess since this character is ultimately pointless, which you know I love, they thought it was okay to just let him stammer his way through this dialogue.
Yeah, it seems darker. It's darker, it's grayer. I was talking to my dad over the holiday, you know, and I just said, you know, my dad says God is not dead.
So wait, did you say that or did your dad? Because both phrases just came out of your mouth. And why are you Christians always trying to prove that God's not dead? I feel like I've already told you a million times. I don't care if he's alive or dead, as long as his dick is still hard. What, I'm not allowed to dead God? I thought he lived forever. I thought his was eternally hard even after he died in heaven. See, the science starts to sound wonky once you really unpack it, especially when I take its out. The words. Regardless, the world is not any darker or more gray just because now we have solar-powered pathway lights, okay, Professor Pen behind the ear? It's just a cloudy day, and you've been depressed ever since your wife started cheating on you. But this is where we get into the real moral crux of not even the whole movie. I guess the movie kind of centers around the theme of reconciling your differences with the people you love in the name of God, but it's also sort of about like how times have changed and there's no more God in our society. I'm just like, oh really? Seems like that's used as an argument a lot when making laws that take away bodily rights. Anyway, shut up. Tell me your thing, pen guy.
So, what do you want me to write about?
What I just said.
It's not WikiLeaks, but I'll do it.
Even WikiLeaks had to start someplace.
Okay, it definitely sounds like one or both of you are under the impression that there's an actual journalist named WikiLeaks. You're thinking of Nene from Real Housewives of Atlanta. Even WikiLeaks had to start somewhere. I can't make sense of that. It started with a whistleblower. What does that have to do with who's Wiki? Also, this is when I realized the movie is secretly a masterpiece. They don't even frame this as an over-the-shoulder shot, which would be normal and expected. Instead, we just see the tip of the boss's ear pen sticking into the frame, and it does all the expression for him. There's no more God and the world is gray because my daughter uses gender-neutral pronouns now. Ah. You can kind of tell that Sienna, who by the way is played by the same actress who starred in another Christian horror movie we watched called Unwanted Presence. I'm definitely less distracted by her fashion choices in this one. And although Sienna seems like she's not 100% religious, or it's not clear that she even believes in God, she takes the assignment because she has no choice, and also she says she's tired of writing about fashion shows. To which I would respond, we haven't seen you do that ever. Did you mean weddings? Why wouldn't you just say weddings? Or make the first thing you were writing about a fashion show? I don't know what kind of publication this is, because her boss just told her to go write about the way the world is more gray because kids don't have the word God in the Pledge of Allegiance anymore, basically. That's what's fun about these Christian movies, is no matter how bland they are, there's always some controversial or very outdated point of view buried and coded deep within the dialogue in such a way that only crazy old men would really understand it. Hence The Boss. It's a dog whistle, but for your uncle who sucks. Speaking of uncle sucking, let's go back to the supply closet with Ed and Smitty. They're deducing a whole lot using the power of assumption.
What's the connection between us? I mean, it doesn't seem random, and yet here we are.
Now, most of the time, multiple victim crimes do have a connection, even if the victims aren't aware of it.
For example, they all entered their credit card on my scam website, or are women who rejected me and have the same hair color as my mom. All right, Ed, very knowledgeable. This is because he says he's a reporter and he writes about crime. Like, can you cite your sources on that statistic then? Without using those two very personal examples. Also, what about this doesn't seem random to you? Like, you both woke up in a storage closet with its own master bathroom and immediately started rehearsing a scene study together. It couldn't seem more random. And I'm not sure I believe that when a crime has multiple victims, they're all connected in some way. I mean, unless the thing connecting them is that they decided to attend a public space in a country with really up gun laws. These two guys are sitting here like, there's gotta be some connection between us. Yes, honey, what you're experiencing is called sexual tension. It's not because you both go to the same barber. As you can tell, Ed doesn't even go to a barber. He just spreads peanut butter on his head and lets the feral dogs in the alleyway by his house do their thing. So, seemingly in an unrelated, completely unrelated, like what the is it for subplot, Sienna is going to speak with religious leaders about this loss of God in society. This is where you start to really get a feel for the problematic direction we're headed.
There aren't real clear lines on morality. What everybody thought was right and wrong is now right for some and wrong for others.
Yeah, like how the lady who does my nails loves the comfort and convenience of NuvaRing, but I can't even fit it all the way into my Oh, by the way, Father, don't be alarmed if when you go to the font, the holy water is a little bloody. It's just because I thought it was a toilet when I came in here. Anyway, and also with you, peace. As soon as one of these Christian movies brings up that there is not enough God in the world and society has worse morals than ever before, I just know we're skating on to the thin ice of some homophobic, racist, trans-exclusionary, toxic, and puritanical pond. It's always like, ugh, don't you just remember back when the universe was way better? Like decades ago, before either of us were born. That's how I know that my unhappiness is being caused by the fact that other people aren't listening to the rules for life that my grandmother taught to me through child abuse, or the fears and anxiety that my mother reinforced by withholding affection. I just want to know, how do people not know what's right or wrong anymore? Like, I think we have more sound protections in place to keep people safe, more equal than they were in the past. And it does seem like Sienna has her mind on the past.
Well, when you systematically remove God from the equation, that's pretty much where it ends up.
And how do you think that it has affected culture in, say, the last 60 years?
All right, that felt like a very intentional date range to pull out of thin air there, Hanna-Barbera. She said, so Father, in your opinion, why has the world become a more evil, godless place with higher crime rates and worse quality of life ever since, I don't know, say the civil rights movement? You know, like what's one major change that happened back then that we can point our fingers at and scream about when we hear people talking in Spanish at the grocery store? What can we say was the problem? It sounds like you're thinking of equality, like other people, other religions besides Christianity and Catholicism ended up expressing that they would like to uphold the part of the Constitution that says they don't need to have a specific religion, and therefore your religion shouldn't be defining the morals of society. Sienna is asking Father, what's his name, why there was such a sharp decline in recent decades in terms of people feeling connected to God in their daily life. And the priest basically says because they have a choice now. And I'm like, okay, good note. That's great. That's very true. So Sienna's like, all right, thanks. I'm gonna go ask some other religious leaders about this whole topic. To me, this is not news. This is some sort of op-ed piece that your boss is demanding you write.
You're going to be interviewing other religious leaders, right? Would you be willing to interview some other people first? Just plain folks who might give you a completely different perspective.
Sounds like an interesting angle.
Damn, girl, are you just gonna let any man wearing a collared shirt tell you what to write about? I thought that's exactly what you hated about doing those wedding recaps for Page 6, which, by the way, is not a good position since the newspaper in this town is only 4 pages long. While claiming that the country is immoral now that people are practicing religious freedom could be problematic in a number of different ways, this screenplay wants to specifically make martyrs out of Christians over the fact that kids in public school don't formally stop and pray to a Christian God at some point throughout the day. Our founding fathers would be sickened by this clear separation of church and state, even though they wrote it in the Bill of Rights. They were talking about other churches, you know, like the weird voodoo ones, or that temple where they worship all the little Pokemon with multiple arms. I don't get why this is such a hard thing for people to understand. Public school is not a Christian school. If you want your kids to pray all day, every day, instead of learning algebra, you gotta cough up some tuition, okay? Or prove that they're not a an idiot like you and get a scholarship to a Christian school. I went to public school, and after the Pledge of Allegiance, which is equally as weird that we had to recite every day, we were all given a moment of silence, which was basically the public school's way of saying like, okay, if you pray in any way or have any sort of spiritual practice, this is your child's opportunity to do it. But if your first graders, Mason Riley King and Rain Wolfhard Dogsoft, choose instead to use that time picking their nose and thinking about Roblox, then that's on you for not washing their brains so thoroughly that they spend every minute worrying about an eternity of punishment in hell. Since we're obviously following Sienna around for her book report in this movie, I need her to have more dimension. Like, can't she leave this place and we see that she's in a hospital sanctuary and she has to go upstairs and visit her brother or sick parent who's in a coma? Like, something that like we know about that threatens her relationship with God or puts her on the edge of going the way of the rest of our terrible society where we are spiritual but not religious, or maybe just don't formally practice any sort of religion and therefore are murderers and lepers. But anyway, Sienna takes on the task of interviewing real people, like this gentleman who works at a soup kitchen serving, you guessed it, soup.
So what's your story on again? I didn't quite understand it.
Don't worry, it's hard to understand because this is a new type of news story, in the sense that it isn't news and there is no story. You see, it all started when my boss was talking to his racist father, which led to the conclusion that the world is less colorful thanks to the gender-neutral bathroom at Target. Have those two ever considered that maybe the world is more gray because of their father-son cataracts? No, because they're so perfect they can't possibly have cloudy vision. It's us draining the world of color, like that Nickelodeon short film, you know? I don't feel like explaining it. That's me giving up on God. Even the paparazzi out here giving up religion on God. Sienna, try and explain yourself, because I don't get this article either.
I'm writing an article on the decline of God in society.
I guess I view God working like a river. When a river gets blocked, it always finds a way to flow.
Wow, God does for that river what I could not do for my bowel obstruction. And I think I get what you're saying about infusing more God into society. Let me put that in the article. Flood the river to drown the non-believers. To drown the gays, Jews, and whores. It's better. This volunteer here is just improvising while he ladles leftover soup, yet he still had that rock solid analogy for his faith on deck. She was like, so I'm writing this article about God, and he was like, some say God, he is a river or a toilet that overflows. She's like, wow, that was beautiful. And in the spirit of our wet, gushing river god, I'm not going to try and have you deported for serving cold soup without a hairnet. You see, this young man feels very honored that God used to be a part of the American experience, because as he found out through his parents' kind of immigration process where they wanted to become citizens, that Christianity used to be the #1 thing. It used to be like what we would consider TikTok today. I'm just kidding. He's like, the fact that they took praying out of schools, I mean, God will always find a way back into our kids' heads like they deserve, but it's a bad sign that the government doesn't care, is what he's saying.
I read about the founding fathers. Prayer, that is what this country was built on.
Pretty sure slave labor was used as the primary foundation, but I'll have our fact checkers at the newspaper double check. At the very least, we can say that prayer was a tool that the founding fathers used in order to pretend that they heard God say it was cool for them to enslave people of African descent to do manual labor and domestic duties. So yeah, prayer and slave labor, the bricks and mortar of this terrible country. It's proven over the years that is like the strongest combination for building a long-lasting powerhouse of Christian colonialism. Oh, that would be such a cute Kardashian-Jenner-esque baby name. I'm taking that for my firstborn. Christian colonialism prayer DiRamio. The Stallion. No one take my idea, okay? You can name your child slave labor, but that's it. Anything else is copyright infringement, and I'll come for your ass. Me and Christian colonialism prayer are gonna be on you and your slave labor child. Oh, let's stop that. Let's stop that sentence. Sienna is over here like, okay, a river. I still don't know why any of this would go in a newspaper, but the article at least is writing itself. Now, how much is it gonna cost me for you to let me dip my feet in that big pot of room temperature soup? I wanna feel the noodles squish between my toes. I really did not expect the whole story to end up in the center of this founding father's circle jerk. That feels outdated to me, since even in 2015, I feel like it was starting to become more common for people who have the ability to think for themselves, started developing a more realistic view and critical perspective on some of our historical figures. It's not all exactly like they taught us in the whitewashed history books of elementary school. Like, this is ancient history by now. None of us were friends with George Washington or Thomas Jefferson, so why are people defending them? Like, why is it so hard for people to admit that most of the founding fathers were weirdos, idiots, and assholes, just like most regular fathers? Not mine though. Love you, Dad. He can be weird, but I like that in a person. To an extent. Don't be drawing pictures of horses in your notebook. Anyway, I'm the new god. Let me judge. So Sienna is really learning lots about nothing. And then we have big breaks happening in the supply closet. Ed, I guess, finds a key in his pocket and they use it to open this locked kind of box. And when they open it, there's a body inside. But don't worry, the body is alive. However, then do worry, because the living body inside the box turns out to be Smitty's brother, twin brother. Naturally, the twin brother, upon coming back to consciousness, has no idea where he is.
Hey, hold on, wait a second.
Get off me! Get away! I don't know who you are, what you want from me, but I'm crying!
I am going to denounce their use of the stereotype that all Asian people know karate, although I would like to endorse the cute and goofy trope that movies do, where a person who gets knocked out will cartoonishly finish their previous sentence upon waking up. Ugh, what are you doing in here? I was just sitting on my couch and then somebody touched me and now I'm flailing so much that I can't open my eyes and that's why I don't realize oh, it's you. That's them. It's fun, but in reality, if you sustain a head injury that causes you to lose consciousness, you'll be lucky if you wake up at all, let alone remember anything from the previous year. But that's not the medical danger here within the dazzling walls of a movie theater with a silver screen. Somehow, head injuries feel good in a place like this.
Somehow, heartbreak feels good in a place like this.
Anyway, our new person in the room, Alex, who is the twin brother of Smitty, wakes up. Seems like everybody's currently forgetting their previous dialogue, so that might be a symptom of this whole movie being shot out of order. This would normally be like the assistant director's job or the script supervisor's job to make sure all of these facts line up.
James!
James? I thought he said his name was Smitty.
He said specifically that Smitty was his nickname, and that outfit specifically makes you look like a depressed Grimace from McDonaldland, who gets body snatched by a serial kidnapper and continues to wear their necktie. The answer is only nerds. This is the room that you're going to be tortured and hopefully killed inside of. Stop acting like it's a company mixer that your boss might attend. So now that these two brothers have reunited, and it turns out they haven't spoken in many years, it becomes very clear to Ed who might be behind all of this. Obviously, that's the brothers' connection, and the MO seems exactly like a serial killer that Ed wrote about. Not a serial killer, serial thing doer, trap setter, prank guy, named the Reconciler. You see, Ed is the one who coined the phrase the Reconciler with his article, and that's why they think Ed was included in this kidnapping so that he could pass the message along to the new victims. That's when we have our first flashback to a previous reconciling, which was two DEA officers who didn't get along. This is what the Reconciler did to them. Brace yourselves.
The bickering has let the citizens of the city down. Take some time to talk. Really talk. Once you work things out, I will let you out of the car.
Hold on, you two. Reconciler, I would really be more comfortable with this mediation if you could quickly kidnap Kim from HR at her home where she lives with her children. She would want to take notes and make sure this meeting is documented. Again, that's Kim Worthington, the only person from that household we need alive. Thank you. Listen, the Reconciler is an international man of mystery. Nobody knows nothing about him, but there's a theory that he was like the son of a rich person who didn't answer his dad's call because they were fighting, and then a plane crash happened and he vowed to cause people to reconcile with estranged loved ones using force, using kidnapping and fear. Seems like a weird way to not pursue a degree in counseling, but okay. The more puzzling part is why the movie felt the need to reuse this same device again and again and again, where Ed starts telling a story so that we can fade away into some other time and place. It feels repetitive, I'll tell you that much.
Did you hear the story about the soldier and his son? He spent a lot of time overseas and he had a wife and son back home. Two drug enforcement detectives. They couldn't get along and the department had nobody else to put them with. William Sanford was taking his entire family to Tahoe for the holidays.
Please, Mr. Prison Haircut, no more expositional introductions that fade into a flashback. It's literally worse than you cutting me apart with rusty blades. Mr. Reconciler, can we get this guy out of here? I'll do anything you want. If you want the twins to kiss and make up, I will have them making out with each other for Mardi Gras beads by midnight. But I'm not even gonna survive that long. With Ed leading into these stories, it's like someone loaded a life-size Teddy Ruxpin with the Tales from My Estranged Family Members cassette tape. It's a sad one. That first story that he mentioned was a soldier and his son who did not see much of each other because the dad is like, you know, army man. They wake up in a national park, which is terrifying. Handrails on the cliff.
Smash these cuffs and get us out of here.
You really hate spending time with me that much, don't you, Dad?
Come on, JR. I'm a soldier in the United States Army.
Yeah, JR, it's the same thing he's already told you as an excuse for his alcoholism. It's the Army's fault that he can no longer feel or express love. Now, when are you going to finally enlist and follow in your father's footsteps of generational trauma? Shoot the bad guys! Shoot the bad guys! Some screenplays get rid of what I thought would be a major character and then replace that with a similar archetype of a major character. Like, we basically lose the newspaper editor, but we gain a police detective. This was apparently the boss of those two cops who got trapped in the car by the Reconciler. So he's familiar with the Reconciler's work and takes a personal interest in the kidnapping case of those two twins after getting a call from one of their mother. I guess they have the same mother. Either way, I feel like the head detective should take a special interest in murder cases whether or not he has personal experience with them. That's sort of of the job. Also, maybe like, does he need to see a picture of what they look like? He's like, I'm gonna go look for them. It's like, okay, they're Asian, but if that helps, like he could be looking for any twins. He's gonna get the double mint twins or girls from that Budweiser commercial. So anyway, Detective Gruff, whatever, he's on the trail, and our girl Sienna gets a referral to speak to another ordinary person who had a very extraordinary experience. Meet Little McTerminal Illness Girl. I don't know the name. Who could think of the name when this is the style of the hair that is on camera?
And then the angels took me to heaven.
And you came back?
Jesus had the angels take me back.
Do you know why?
To tell you.
I have to put this in the article. Little girl needs to mind her own f***ing business. She's a frizzy-haired, ratty looking, that's better, ratty hair little troll. All right, gotcha. But little girl dead for a few minutes didn't just have a quick pump and dump experience seeing the light. She was up there like on a seesaw with Jesus Christ, having the recess of, eternal happiness. But the angels brought her back for a very special reason.
Jesus told me you were coming, and he loves you very much, and he wants you back.
Okay, well, next time you die of childhood illness, you can tell Jesus that my DMs are open. And it looks really desperate for him to use an actual terminal kindergartner as his messenger. Let him know that, okay? I don't mean to be rude, but is this the same exact hairstyle she came back to life with? Because she looks like they just brought her home from a children's hospital. Anyway, that was probably supposed to be a lot more touching than it came across, because I've said it once and I'll say it again. Most children suck at acting. Like, I can almost see what the director wanted it to look like in my head, but then when you're not getting the performance from a child actor, what do? I mean, you could hit them, you could physically hurt them. Try that next time. I'm just kidding. I love kids. It's not the idea of them. So now the kidnap crew is pretty sure the reconciler has brought them there to unite Alex and Smitty after many years of disagreements, but it's basically up to Ed to get them to talk about this. I would be like, you guys, it's literally life or death. Do you want to starve down here? Just talk about it and make up in a convincing way. And I don't care if you both never speak to each other again. Like, I'm gonna want to live.
Can't even begin to understand the differences, especially when it comes to faith.
You mean religion?
No, it's not religion. You turned his back on God.
I have not.
You haven't been to church in 2 years.
Come on, you guys. What part of this conversation sounds like it's not about religion? Like, I thought that meant you disagreed on who should have won Best Pop Vocal Performance at the Grammys last year. You said it's not about religion, and then started having the core theological debate at the center of every religion. I don't like it. It's really hard to believe in two characters who seem like they're bad writers even by just talking about what happened to them earlier in their lives. It seems like you should at least get that part down accurately as a fully fleshed out person, but I don't know. Through this argument, we get to the bottom of things. It seems like Smitty left home as soon as he turned 18 because his parents were very imposing about how he worshipped a Christian God. Like, I'm guessing that means they weren't allowed to play acoustic guitar in a circle and sing faith songs. They had to be more like, read it in the book, sing it with the choir. And that was just too much for Smitty to take. I start losing it at this terrible argument dialogue.
You never let me live my faith out in my own way, your own way. Do you even hear yourself talk? That's how cults start. You're either for Jesus or you're against him.
Do you even hear yourself? Because to me, that sounded a lot more cult-like than your brother joining a Unitarian Universalist church and switching his Tinder profile to bisexual mode. Alex is like, thinking for yourself? Don't you see how dangerous that is? Being your own person has you completely brainwashed. You should be taking the phrases and ideology that our father abused us with and use them to control the people in your sphere of influence. That's what independence is. Now, please, brother, I'm trying to help you be mentally well. So come back home with me and the angry ghost of our father that only I can see. Like, well, he's got a little bit of denial in his eyes, don't you think? Next, the gang hears like a buzzer of some sort and they dig around and find like a wire with a speaker on it. This is how the reconciler is gonna communicate with them. Meanwhile, the head detective, who's dressed like he's at his grandson's first communion, is just driving around town privately in an unmarked car without any backup, looking for the place that they found those two detectives trapped in a car way back when. He even calls the victim of that crime, the woman who was fighting with her partner. This is supposed to show that she's still alive, has changed and aged, and he actually asks her what the address was of the place where she was psychologically tortured. Bro, you know that was written in the police report. Please let her enjoy bird watching without talking about the violent crime. Alex admits that the last time he spoke to his brother Smitty was in a moment of anger where he said, if you're turning your back on God like this, I can't believe you're actually my brother. Which to me isn't like the worst thing you could say to a loved one. Like obviously it's very invalidating towards Smitty's like wanting to be a cool jeans wearing Christian, but it's not like he said, I hope you die and I hope God watches you rot in hell for eternity for not believing in him. I can't wait for your judgment day, Josiah. You know, he just said, I can't believe you're my brother. How could we both not feel the same way and be related, even though feelings aren't genetically linked to each other? I mean, I tend to cry when my dog is sad, but that's because I'm not secure in myself, you know? Also, me and my dog are not genetically related. It's worth noting, I guess. Is it? It's not, because this movie does exactly what I knew they would do, which is like go back to the flashbacks and show a montage of the people in the past reconciler traps like making up with one another. You know, finally the two detectives start talking to one another while Alex in the present day is sitting in the toilet room thinking about what he did to his brother to estrange him. To sum it up, the woman who works for the DEA is not getting along with her partner because he was put up for a promotion before she was, which to me kind of just puts all of the blame on her not being able to handle something professionally. And he's like mansplaining how she still could get a promotion at another time. Like, okay, there's some sexism there. Like, oh God, a woman can't be a DEA agent or she'll get all every time someone else is chosen as the winner of the measuring contest, you know? I think they think they're being progressive by allowing her to say this.
I complain, something gets filed, the rumors start. Stacy's hard to work with. Stacy's a woman. Stacy's hormonal. Stacy thinks she's special.
Stacy thinks she's a Toni Collette type of actor, but really she's more of a Whitney Cummings. Oh, sorry, Stace. I did not mean to jump in on your list with extra items. I guess I just thought we were brainstorming mean things that we've heard people say about you. Yeah, sorry. I heard the Toni Collette comment from somebody named myself a few seconds ago when it came out of my own mouth. But don't even worry about what I think. I'm just insecure because of my pesticide-resistant pubic lice. But anyway, what is Stacy having her period about now? Just kidding. She doesn't get her periods because she's that physically fit that it's actually bad for her. Anyway, what's his name? Donny Osmond here talks her through her perfectly valid feelings of being the more deserving recipient of the promotion that she's passed up for. He's like, don't worry, it wasn't sexism. I'm truly better than you at this job, but you'll get there. And she admits, she's like, I could be trying harder. It's like, are you not finding any drugs? That's all you're supposed to be doing. And then the dogs do most of the work. Did you lose the dog? Anyway, once those two crazy kids finally come to a resolution using only words and no action that would be interesting to see on screen, and they decide to remain partners, suddenly the door, what was once locked, became unlocketh. And that's how the reconciler let them go. Now, let's head back over to Tinker Tailor Soldier Son, where they are hiking up a public trail to find the backpack that, upon reading the note, so the soldier, when they woke up, he was like, I think we're in a national park. And he had a note from the reconciler. Again, we don't get to see what the note says, so I feel like if we started with a close-up of the envelope sealing, we should get a close-up of it opening, or at least being read, but whatever. He doesn't let his son read it until they're like almost up the mountain, and that's when he knows what they're really doing here.
The keys to your cuffs and your cell phone are in a backpack at the top of the mountain. Also, the park is closed till Monday. The only way you and your son are getting unattached from each other is to go on a little hike.
Well, what day of the week is it? Because it sounds like you could also just sort of hang out until Monday morning when the seniors enter the park to practice Tai Chi. Like, I'm pretty sure with all his army training and experience in active combat, Sergeant Beef Tits over here should have no problem keeping him and his kid alive for a long weekend to 6 days at most, especially since, again, this is a national park with like water bottle fill stations and a swing set. I don't understand why they couldn't have upped the stakes in any of these trappy trap scenarios. Like, can't you make it really hot out and they're like really thirsty? Like, can't you make it not take place in a national park? They're trapped in an abandoned area, like a wildlife preservation where no humans are allowed to go. Not only does that make it seem like they actually have to work to survive in this harsh condition, but also it adds more mystery. Like, how would somebody even have access to such a remote place and bring me, a 300-pound douchebag, into the field yonder? You know, same with the car thing. Like, could the car be about to be crushed by a compounder? Could it be like the heat is turning up in the car? I guess we can't have them all die of heat and dehydration, but I would love it. I would love it if that's what happened. Anyway, JR is like, wow, Dad, I can't believe you're like so interested in getting us out of this kidnapping scenario. You must really hate me. It's like, he might just really hate being kidnapped. They're cuffed together. I hope that's clear. That's like, I guess the unique part about their trap is that they are handcuffed together. Not working for me, since that is also a comedy-based kind of cliche that we see in a lot of sitcoms, making this unintentionally funny and perhaps intentionally sexual in subtext. I hope that's intentional and not just me projecting.
Who do you think I fight for? Your God-given liberty doesn't come free. There's people that want to take those from you. That's why I do what I do.
Yeah, young people just don't understand military strategy. Your dad has to pilot those drones that kill children in Syria. It's the only way to somehow maybe convince Starbucks to let their baristas say Merry Christmas again, a right that was never taken away from them. Seriously, JR, stop nagging your dad just because he doesn't come home to you ever and also makes fun of you to his cop friends. He's a soldier. Imagine how brave your dad has to be in order to risk his life and take the lives of others, all in the name of a valiant list of reasons that no one's quite sure about at this point. It's an honor that I would abandon your family for again and again, every day, until God finally appears and looks down at us from the heavens with the face of a white man, and then sucks all the Christians into the sky for eternal peace using a straw made of clouds, while the unrepentant sinners are all left down here on earth, which is now a wasteland where they can do nothing but count the tiny skeletons of Syrian children. And that's the America that our founding fathers were enslaving people over. Where's your pride? I'm a little concerned because JR seems more mad at his dad for not like enjoying the process of their kidnapping more, since it's seemingly the first time they've spent any quality time together. And the dad is just like, listen, maybe I'll take you to the arcade for like an hour if we even survive this. But once again, I'm sort of a government-funded murderer and I need you to respect that. But everything changes when JR takes one step in the wrong direction that we don't see and nearly falls off a green screen cliff. I get a real headache here because the camera is handheld on a green screen backdrop where there is not well done motion tracking. So it's like, what is going on in the flip book? What in the flip book? You can see though from the constipated look on his face that Jeff, the army dad, is really trying his best to not let his son fall off a cliff, which is great progress. Luckily, through some miracle, he has the strength of 1,000 angry moms and pulls the son up, you know?
Oh man, I thought I lost you. Oh, not yet. Thank God.
Thank you, God, for saving my son's button-up shirt from Target that we just got for him. I'm sure he's very sorry that he just almost got it filled with blood and his guts and broken bones. Is this supposed to imply that before the reconciler got involved and made them hike an intermediate trail, Jeff wouldn't have even tried to save his son from falling off a cliff? Like, I get that he's not emotionally available as a father, but they seem to still live in the same house. Like, that's the guy who signs your field trip permission slips. I don't think he truly hates you. Also, because they're chained together, it doesn't really prove Jeff has any sense of pure selflessness. Like, I have a feeling he also just didn't want to get dragged off of a cliff to his death before working up the courage to finally attend a gay line dancing event. Okay, I know I might be projecting homosexual tendencies onto this character, but to be fair, I can see his nipples through his shirt in some of these shots. Also, the actor playing Jeff is named Aaron T. Allen, although he performs under the stage name Xander Steele, and he spells Xander with an X, so I know he's at least watched gay porn before. That's the only place you see that kind of creativity anymore. I'm further confused after that climax ends and then becomes another climax for the same people. Like, Xander Jeff holds up Twink the son and he's like, oh my god, Dad, thank you for rescuing me from that cliff. And then he passes out into death territory again. I suppose I'm supposed to assume that he's like dehydrated or exhausted from this journey up a very easy to climb mountain with a trail that is paved. But Jeff just said they only have like 500 or 600 more feet to go. And now that they're almost at the top, but JR is passed out, Jeff has to do the heroic thing and carry him. Although, I mean, they could have left out the 500 feet part. That literally makes the whole thing seem less impressive, even though that's a long distance in real life, and it looks pretty hard. They even have Xander Steele carry the kid up in one long take, which honestly, and I mean this for real, Officer Nips, looks impressive to me. Just takes a long time. He makes it look easy though. Wow, that really helps us see the character development that Jeff has experienced in the last 55 seconds of screen time. He's like, I get it now. Even if I destroy every single one of America's enemies who think different than us, it's still important for me to spend time with my son, even if he's just a lifeless body that I'm carrying. Because if I'm not as dedicated to being a father as I am to being a soldier, then I'm not being perfect. And that will mean my dead grandfather in heaven will keep being mad at me for having gay thoughts about Sergeant Lance and Corporal Jason, and pretty much any of the men from my troop who I've watched take an outdoor shower in the desert. God, I want to go back to Iraq so bad. You're having gay issues and you need to work it out. I mean, actually the military is a good place to do it. Get him on another tour. Regardless, this extremely strong muscular man has done the impossible by carrying a very light and thin person a short distance. And he's like, I'm not gonna use this clear trail. That's for Here, son, just lay back and relax on this jagged rock face and drink some of this magic water of wakefulness. I can't lose you. You're the only person in the family who knows how to blend their mismatched makeup far enough down the sides of their neck. I can't have mismatched neck sides. Jeff's makeup is not giving the cool undertones of his natural skin. There are literally some wide shots where he looks like the Joker got drafted, but I guess all JR needed was a sip of water and to be moved up the mountain slightly. That's when he wakes up, and I guess they have the cell phone now. Yeah, so they escaped the reconciler. Meanwhile, our reporter Sienna, who truly should be working on an article about the reconciler if we wanted her to feel at all involved in this story, but regardless, she's on her secondary plot line and visiting one final individual recommended to her by the terminally ill child who made it.
Pastor Dan called, said you were writing an article. I don't know why he wants you to talk to me. I haven't exactly lived a saintly life.
Wait, let me capture that for the article. Old lady eyeglass lenses. Previously tried anal. Previously tried play. That's better. Anyway, what were you saying, lady? Because you're the last excruciatingly wholesome person that Sienna has to interview before she gets to finally go home and relax with a nice glass of having sex with a drug dealer. So, talk fast, Margaret. Now, this is an interesting perspective we get from whoever. She's like, I was a young girl when World War II ended, and after that, we were like so close to being, you know, more German than David Hasselhoff that we were so grateful grateful for God because we felt like he just saved us. I guess that's supposed to relate to how the victims of the reconciler are so close to death, in a manner of speaking, that they are led to believe in God once again. I don't get it. I mean, I get it because I just did the mental gymnastics to connect the dots. So I guess the general message is that the reconciler is actually helping reinstill morals in society by making people disappear to secret locations and threatening them with mortal terror until they become friends with their brother who was mean to them, right? And Sienna's just here like, oh, I thought my boss was mad about the school prayer thing, but he also mentioned battery-powered cars. Does he want me to buy a Prius? Even when Sienna gets home to her loving family, who we've only heard mentioned, I'm still not clear on what it is she's learned, other than old people seem to really love God, and some of them even remember like war and stuff. That's crazy. And then we have what this movie probably thinks is a clever reveal, although I find it lackluster in both its like cinematography and emotional importance. Sienna, why do your husband and son look like every gay couple in West Hollywood? I don't know what they sound like because all I can hear is that squeaking shoe noise. It's like being courtside at a basketball game, except instead of basketball players, it's two gentlemen whose father-son chemistry is coming across a little more sexual to me. Can we get some moleskin on the bottom of those sneakers before we begin the daddy-son group scene? Is that a possibility, Sienna? Can you fetch the talent some slippers? We're done with you. She's like, oh, my husband returned, to the family. He's opened his heart to us. And then we're like, oh, because the reconciler affected her life. But I mean, I didn't even know that she knew the reconciler thing was going on. She didn't mention the reconciler once. Even if the newspaper editor could have been like, the world is immoral. That's why we have crazy things like the Riddler holding Gotham City hostage, or this reconciler stealing people away and making them talk like a camp counselor would. Like, couldn't they have, even in this scene, her looking like lovingly after her son and husband go get some dinner? Like if she was looking at a newspaper clipping about their heroic and miraculous survival story, something to reinforce that it was unusual for Jeff to have the strength to lift the son twice in a row in different circumstances. And also, I just don't get why out of all of the characters, they were the ones who were connected to Sienna and not like somehow everybody's intertwined, showing the great picture of God's plan, It just feels like tossed in. And I don't know for sure, but I could swear they're trying to make this seem like the first part of a pornography where everyone's like talking.
Hey, Mom.
I know what you two are doing.
Us?
Yes.
What?
Yeah.
Can father and son have a little fun?
Sienna is like, ugh, you boys and your video games. Meanwhile, they're over on the family computer giving each other scoliosis checks on camguys.net in exchange for tokens. She's like, can I play? No, Mom, f off. After she gets a moment of peace while her husband and son go rent a room. I'm just kidding. Incest jokes. Who am I? Am I allowed to say on YouTube? Let's bleep just in case. That way it just sounds like a beautiful song of beeps. Anyway, hilarious. Sienna then goes to the letter that she keeps in a copy of her Bible from her mother who died. Again, could have used at least a little bit of information that she was mourning a parent at all. This could have been used as the reason why she lost her faith, but it's not. Do we just get an old lady voiceover from her dead mom being like, God is so miraculous. Your husband doesn't think you're tacky anymore, and he and your son touch each other. And she's like, you're right. I love you, God. I believe in you. Once again, she had nothing to do with the movie. She was just doing her own article altogether different. Like they must not have told her, the son and father, that there even was a reconciler event, because she seems like the kind of person who would take that into consideration when forming a worldview. Anyway, Alex, the brother who can't believe he had a brother, he finally comes out of toilet room and he's like, sorry guys, I just had to really process everything Smitty said to me about being an asshole, because I'm just now realizing that's a thing. He's like, I'm still not quite sure I totally get what you were talking about. Religious tolerance? Like, what is that? How will we impose our oppressive viewpoints onto the entire planet without seeming like the holes in the situation? You know what might work? Somebody call me on my cell phone. I'll pretend it's God and he's letting me know he would like for all the gay people to go onto a space station, right? But no, the kids made up because their problem was never that serious. And to my shocking surprise, that was only a twist because I forgot how much this movie was copying Saw. Ed, the journalist with a cane, which he attributed to a car accident, he then sets the cane down and starts walking away.
Ed, your leg is okay?
I have a little confession to make.
Yeah, we already know that it was you who took a shit in the corner before realizing there was a toilet down here. We were just trying to be polite when you said it was a clue often left behind by the reconciler. But this is when we get all of the talking that explains the twist ending, which is everyone's favorite way of having a twist revealed. Why show me something? That. Ed is like, yeah, I work for the reconciler, but you guys have been talking about the reconciler this whole time, and I'm not really a journalist, but I was assigned to help you. So it's like, okay, you're an angel. I get it. And then we go back in chronology and see that he had a hand in releasing the cops from the car, helping with his Jedi mind powers, Xander Steele lift his butt boy up off the cliff, and yada yada yada, he's saving everyone. And now it's the twin turn, because they finally stopped hating each other and are ready to focus on the real enemy, their dad.
And as for the reconciler, the two of you have been talking about him the entire time you've been in here.
I thought you said that was locked.
It was locked. I checked it.
How'd you do that?
I'll ask the questions here, like why are you both standing so close together? And why do you talk with arm movements like you're in a Power Rangers costume? See, there are lots of loose ends from this dumb movie. But clearly, the reconciler is not a vicious, angry murderer after all. He's just a vicious, angry, kill-hungry god who lives in the sky and is ready to send his little minions to kidnap you if you and your sister argue. I love the message, so beautiful. And frankly, don't worry about the plot holes. All you need to know is that the only way God could really help these people get forgiveness from their estranged family members was through the trauma of being abducted, as well as experiencing light to moderate psychological torture. No blood though, thanks to me not having a menstrual period. Thanks, low birth weight. In a last kind of telling show of budget with this special effect, we see Ed, the now angel, sort of disappear. They use like it's a really basic transition that you get with After Effects or Final Cut where it's like sparkle transition. However, they didn't really show us enough of him before the disappearing, so it just kind of looks like crazy light leaks happening on camera. Did I mention during all of this, the detective who is another fifth tertiary character? He's like finding his way down into the basement, which was really hard for him to figure out. He had to call someone who had been there before, and he's making his way to where the boys were locked away, and the door opens and he finds them just as Ed disappears. That's great detective work, officer, although I'm not sure you quite remember who or what it was you're looking for, because this approach is a little hostile.
Who are you?
I'm Alex. He's James.
Twins?
Yes, sir.
Were you two held captive?
Yes, sir.
Are the reconciled?
Yes, sir.
Like, is he going to shoot them if they answer one of his questions wrong? Just a reminder, detective, these are the twins you specifically were sent to look for. It might be okay to stop pointing your gun at them now. Why did he have to verbally confirm that they were twins anyway? He said, are you twins? Or one regular person and their clone? Or two clones who kidnapped and killed their regular person? Or one of three clones where there was no regular person because you were raised from a stem cell? You know what? I've been watching a lot of sci-fi. Yeah, that's obvious. You also forgot the most important part of police training. So, gentlemen, can you please line up in front of the detective so that he can shoot now and ask questions later? And that's the story of the reconciler. He's secretly Jesus taking lives and making your kids go missing. Yeah. And just for those of you who are unable to directly connect this storyline with the biblical happenings, like, we can wrap it all up really nicely with this succinct succinct Bible quote in an ugly font. All this is from God, who, through Christ, reconciled us to himself and gave us the ministry of reconciliation. You're right. So we're like excited about God because he gives us Jesus's forgiveness, and therefore I know how to like not be mad at my stepbrother anymore for ruining my family. This is a little Easter egg I didn't see. We actually get like mock-ups of the newspaper showing Lori Peter. Why was I calling her Sienna? Damn, her article sucks. These fonts. That little girl, still living, I guess. This article sucks from what I'm reading, so I unsubscribed from that newspaper. But I do want to shout out the state of Oregon for existing where this movie could be shot. Beautiful state park that you have there. However, I would like to chain myself to a massive soldier and let him drag me up a craggly rock face in order to survive, because this nearly killed me. Thank you all who tagged me in the tweet about this movie. I don't know why it all happened at once when this movie came out 5 years ago, but it wasn't really gonna work when I first got tagged because it was the Christmas season. However, I do feel like the beginning of the year is a great time to feel tortured by inner demons, right? So I wanna really take my hat off and tip it to you for joining me on that venture. Let me know if there are other faith-based horror films that I need to review, because I love doing these ones. But most importantly, if you're new to my channel, I would love to have you give this video a big thumbs up, but most importantly, click that subscribe button right over here. That way you never miss new videos from me. I upload 2 new ones every week, so turn on notifications. That way you'll always be the first to know when there's something weird going on between your son and your husband. I gotta move on from that. I gotta hang myself off of a different cross. Can you tell I'm talking too much by all of the regret? Anyway, notifications, new videos every week. You guys are all the greatest. Thank you so much for not sawing your leg off with me, even though it couldn't have hurt. I will see you next time. Mwah!